Hi, Science 8. So let's go over the answers to the first part of plate tectonics. So this first assignment. They talk about a supercontinent, and so the name of the supercontinent was Pangaea. Okay, and basically what the continental drift hypothesis or theory is saying is that at one point all the continents were at one time connected to what we call a supercontinent, which was referred to as Pangaea. So a good question is for number two, what evidence supports that? Okay, so one would be fossils. Okay, so you've got fossils of animal, plant, preserved fossils that you find on separated continents. So, for example, you find similar fossils on the east coast of South America as you would on the west coast of Africa, right? And so, they couldn't have swam across or flown across the ocean. So, how do you have the same fossils there? What that indicates is that at one point those land masses were combined, right? It's the only explanation for that. A second piece of evidence would be mountain ranges. So think about like a zipper that's been like chopped in half. You can still see that at one point the zipper was connected because it lines up nicely. So what happens here is you have mountain ranges that kind of are chopped off at a coastline, and then you can see them begin on a adjacent coastline from another continent. And so if you pull the continents together, you can see at one point those mountain ranges were continuous. Another piece of evidence is that if you look at the global map with all the continents, you can kind of imagine them as puzzle pieces. And the pieces seem to fit, right? Like if you kind of squish it all together, they sort of line up nicely and they fit like a puzzle. So from a pictorial standpoint, the pieces fit. And then finally, another piece of evidence would be like the rock types. Okay, so this is kind of the same thing as the fossils. What happens is when we have different layers of rock, we refer to that as strata. And so again, you're seeing similar types of rock that are in adjacent continents. Similarly, you're seeing glaciers. Glaciers are basically when you see a lot of the Earth's landmass and sort of where you have valleys and other geological structures. What glaciers acted as were kind of like carving knives, right? So they carved out these valleys, and again, if you put them together, they line up nicely. Okay, let's look at the different layers of the Earth, and we can work our way out to in. Okay, so this is kind of like just a rough sketch here, and so you see you have a bunch of circles. So if we start on the outermost part, we've got the crust. Okay, so 5 to 70 kilometers, so it fluctuates. So here what you have is solid brittle rock. You have what's called granite in the continental areas and basalt in the oceanic areas. Then working inward, you have the mantle, which is separated into two parts. Okay, so upper mantle is 660 kilometers wide. The lower mantle is 2,225 kilometers wide. Upper mantle is partly molten. So this term molten basically means that it's kind of like a liquid, not semi-liquid would be a better way to describe it, metal. So think of this as kind of like toothpaste. Okay, so that's kind of a good way to describe when we talk about something as being molten. Here you're looking at iron, magnesium mostly. Okay, lower mantle, same thing, is iron, magnesium. This is more in a solid phase. Okay, outer core is you have the inner core, the outer core. Outer core is about 2,270 kilometers wide. It's in a liquid liquid state, and it's iron and nickel. Okay, and then the inner core is 5,000 to 6,000 degrees Celsius. Now, this should melt the iron and the nickel, but it is in a solid state. And so what basically keeps everything solidified is the enormous amount of pressure that exists at the inner core. So remember what pressure is defined as: pressure is force divided by area. Okay, so you got all that pressure that's keeping it at a solid state. Okay, so check over your answers. If there's something that didn't make sense, just send me a message and I can elaborate on that. So I'll get you to do assignment number 2, and you can hand that in on Tuesday. Okay, so I'll stop there. So again, just keep sending me messages. I should have your marks done within a week or so. And basically those marks will be a combination of what you had before spring break to all the online stuff that we've done after spring break. So I'll kind of go through all the stuff that you've submitted and combine that with the work we did before spring break. Okay, so keep up the good work. You guys have been doing really well. Most of you have been submitting everything, and so just keep it up. And again, if anything is confusing or you need some extra clarification on, just please send me a message and I can help you out with that. Okay, so continue to stay safe. I'll talk to you again on Tuesday. Okay, bye now.